much to your point before about like sensing the value of growing your own food, not just the value, but the craving for it, like the deep level craving for that. And then what happens when we as human beings lose that in this miracle of life thing with Sadhguru that I was listening to, he's like, it has never been easier for us. You could go to the superstore, he calls it the superstore, and buy everything you need for a year. And then for an entire year, you don't have to go out, versus in the past, every day, I mean, whether you're buying it from a market or whether you're cultivating it itself, you were forced to interact with nature and to go out and about, and that creates a whole new value and appreciation. And when we miss out on that, I have to believe that there are elements in that disconnect that lead to conditions like, depression or anxiety, or when we lose that natural connection, when we're not honoring our DNA and what we crave on a deep, maybe unconscious level, then what are the end results of that in our physical world?
Totally. I mean, I think as humans, it is quite clear what we need mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. We need clean water, we need fresh food, we need fresh air, not polluted air. We need, connection with other people, like actual, authentic, intimate connection with other people. We need, and I think also we need connection with non-human beings as well. Like to me, I've started to realize that there's really, I can't say like I just need connection with human beings. There's a whole lot of other non-human species out there that are also part of the planet that I live on, that I can connect with, and not only connect with, that actually are very conscious and sentient and hold a lot of beautiful wisdom for me if I'm actually willing to stop and listen. And if I can look at that big oak tree outside my window as like a wise elder instead of just a thing, an object, it creates a very different frame of mind that I'm interacting, not only with that tree, but then I also think with the world in general and with other people. Often it's going back to this framework that I think we've all, to some level, unless you're very lucky to be born into a family or maybe even a culture that still honors the connection with non-human beings, but we've all kind of been unconsciously born into this culture that says humans are better and they're superior and they're conscious and these other things aren't. They're just things.
Like watch a little 3-year-old run around and like look at things in nature. Like it's just, we don't have to teach it. Yeah. It's automatic. Kids get it.
Our bodies, if you think of our bodies are about 1 trillion human cells plus about 10 trillion bacteria. That makes up the human body. We're actually more of a bacteria than we are a human. It just kind of like blows my mind, this whole structure here is not even mostly human, it's mostly bacteria. Yeah. But they're all working together. This whole system, and it's easy for us to see this as a whole, to not take, to look at our one cell or even our one, finger, to say something bigger and think like this works in this vacuum out of conjunction with the whole rest of the system. It's easy for us to see that scale because it's a smaller scale and it's more perceivable to us. And a big point that she makes in the book is, what if we could expand our view to actually see the earth as that we, it's because of this like small perception, we're like these little ants. And maybe we think, you know, that the only thing that it exists is what's right in front of us because we can only see that. But what if we could expand our view out and realize that we're all like cells of this bigger system, which is the earth, which is actually a cell of this whole or bigger system, which is our universe, you know, and it's all one system. And so nothing is actually separate from anything else. And that's kind of getting it, you know, that's intersecting with the spiritual concept of we are one and da da da. And really, what does that mean? Well, if you can take it and you can look at, you know, these systems, everything is occurring as a system, and we're part of that system. We don't exist separately from the tree or the grass or we can separate ourselves. Like we can sort of falsely separate ourselves through
Illusion.
Buildings. Yeah, we can put separations around us and then think we're separate. But there's nothing separate about us from the whole system that's happening, the ecosystem that's happening in the world, and everything is impacting everything else. Those trees and those animals are impacting us, we're impacting them. You know, it's all really connected, and we are these little cells of this bigger system that's all working together.
Interacting with nature and learning from nature and seeing the wisdom in nature for people who don't have any sort of a background of how to commune with nature, or you know, I can picture, I remember when I first started doing it, I mean, we co-led this nature immersion, I think it was 2016 now, and I learned so much about what I didn't know. I already felt an awe and reverence for nature, but I didn't have any sort of background for how to commune with it, like how to actually learn from trees. And so for someone who doesn't have any sort of that background, how do you begin?
Yeah, well, I mean, what I've found is that first, there's a process of being willing to acknowledge that non-human beings are sentient conscious beings. I mean, number one, nothing can happen until that openness is there. And everything from that fly buzzing around you to the mountain you see in the distance, you know, holds its own consciousness, its own life energy in a way. It doesn't necessarily look the same as we see it packaged in a human, that it's very obvious for us to, or even, you know, your pet, that it's still very obvious that this is like an alive, you know, being with directing itself. And but just because other beings, like a tree, doesn't have its heart and its brain packaged in little areas doesn't mean it doesn't have heart cells and of its own kind. Or you know, an electromagnetic field. Our heart is generating a massive electromagnetic field, and a tree is generating a massive electromagnetic field as well. And so that communication, so to speak, is happening through that interaction of those fields. The same way we have nonverbal communication with each other. When you walk into a room, you can feel if there was like tension in that room. That is your intuitive mind, your right brain, picking up millions of bits of information per second, connected to your heart on the left side of your body, right? Because the left side of the body controls the right side, the right brain controls the left side of the body and is connected, right? So that is your intuitive mind picking up through your electromagnetic field this information of someone else's electromagnetic field. So if you can think of it like that, you can do that with anything that has an electromagnetic field, which the earth itself has an electromagnetic field. Yeah. Right. And so starting there, like, recognize that it is possible to give and receive information with non-human beings. This has been proven at this point with many scientific experiments that have shown the impact of even human like thoughts and emotions on something like a plant. Right, so the information is transmitting. And then like get in tune with maybe your senses that you often might not pay attention to on a day-to-day basis. So one of the things that Renee Wade taught me, who's the author of the Living Earth Handbook, and she's a teacher of mine right now, is get outside, and before you're doing any kind of like interaction with any non-human being, do a sensory meditation with yourself. Bring your attention to your senses, your vision, start to notice like how far can my hands go out, and I'm still looking forward, and where does my peripheral vision end, right? Start to just pay attention to that. Notice what you smell, notice what you taste, notice what you feel, and just bring our attention, our awareness to these things that we're usually not. We're just going about our day, and we're in our very analytical mind thinking of our to-do list and our this and our that. Yeah. We're not necessarily bringing our attention into our body senses. I think even just to start with like a breath meditation to really acknowledge and realize you are exchanging respiration with this tree. As they're outputting oxygen, you're taking it in, and as you're outputting carbon dioxide, they're taking it in, and you are mutually supporting each other's life. And to really feel that, and to visualize even the flow of air going back and forth, and your carbon gives them life, their oxygen gives you life.
It's a perfect exchange happening.
It's a perfect exchange.
In every moment.
Yes, in each moment. And there's this, like, to really feel, wow, like, this is my ally. Like, this is my ally. It's like a best friend where you just like got each other's backs. And to really feel into that and feel that in your heart.
This illusion of separation, which is just that, it's an illusion. And another one of the things that I really appreciate about what you're talking about with communication with non-human, let's just say it that way, but particularly with trees, is the freedom that you can allow yourself to just go out and explore without expectation of a particular result or a particular communication. You've said to me several times before, like, it's kind of all, who really knows? I don't know. Sometimes it can seem strange. We can get in our heads like, did I just get something? Am I getting anything? Is this crazy? But as you say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we actually are getting or are not. The power of our perception gives us the, if we're willing to not expect a certain result, then we give ourselves the freedom to receive the messages that are there for us, real or not.
It's not real. Everything is real,
But meaning, like, is that true? Did that actually happen? Like, getting out of that mode of thinking, of analyzing, and instead into the experience of it, where as you say, it is all real.
And then you kind of get into like, if being in the presence of this tree catalyzed me to have a certain thought that was insightful, did it come from the tree or did it come from me?
Yeah.
And that's what really doesn't matter.
Exactly.
And that's where we, start to merge into, well, we are one, and maybe I am the tree, and the tree is me. And so to even ask this question of, did it come from the tree or did it come from me, is just playing into this paradigm of separation, which that's where we kind of get ourselves into a little bit of a mind screw, right? And if we can let that go and just acknowledge that there's something valuable that came out of that.
The willingness to recognize that there is a consciousness may not be in the same form that we are in, but if we had that willingness, then we open this portal to this expanded connection, which is there. It's just a matter of us being willing to see it. I just want to underline back to my point of like, this is possible for anybody.
Totally.
And it can be underwater somewhere, or it can be in the tree, sitting by the tree in your yard, anywhere. And especially as what you do in working with the earth so often, in that connection, there is a union happening. I think about, yoga actually meaning union of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And when we are, there goes two hawks right over.
Wow.
They're just gliding on the wind. God, that's so cool. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, they want to say something.
Thank you.
Talk about union.
Union, yes, thank you. Like the connection, it's a similar thing of like, we're just merging with another field of whatever it is that we're communicating with. We're part of that union, which is really there the whole time. How does that inform your connection with nature, like working with plants in that way, herbalism?
Yeah. Well, I think herbalism is beautiful, and it's a beautiful ancient form of communing with plants, of utilizing the medicine that the earth offers for our physical bodies. And there's no doubt that the biochemical compounds in plants impact our biophysiology. We evolved with plants, and so that would make a lot of sense. I think that sometimes, because we are so kind of like we feel so physical and kind of confined to this matter of the world, often, that to physically ingest or inhale or whatever it might be, a plant substance can, for some people, open them up to that connection in a way that that exchange is, and connection, communication, to me, I just see it as an exchange of information. And so that plant's biochemistry mingling with mine is an exchange of information. And so I think it's one way, and it's not the only way. And I also have experienced, massive healing in my physical body from simply being around plants for longer periods of time, not even necessarily need to ingest. And a lot of it intersects with what we believe. Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Belief, is a great reference for us to really understand what we believe has a massive impact on what we experience in our physical body and our physical reality. And so if someone really believes, because they've been conditioned to believe, that they need to physically ingest something in order to have an impact on them, then that's probably the best option for them. Unless somehow they're able to shift or change their belief. But so it's like there are all these different ways to accommodate all different belief systems and all different levels of availability that we might have to interact with the natural world. But the one thing that I think is for sure is there's a way for everyone.
Yeah.
Way for everyone, no matter where you come from, whether you've grown up in a city your whole life, and you spend most of your life going from one building to car to the next building, back to your car, and you really like walking on the pavement is about the only outdoor time you have. Wherever you're at, there is a way to find a deeper connection with with the natural world, and even to start to realize that the natural world is really not any separate from us. We are the natural world.
Exactly.
Oh, it's all just one. We're all the earth, you know.
Yeah.
Even the urban areas and the concrete jungles, it's still the earth. It's our manipulation of certain things, you know, but that's okay. It's still the earth.
One of my favorite things is to see, you know, on 6-8 inches of asphalt, to see like this little tiny fern or something pushing up. Like, you think about the strength and persistence and power of that tiny little,
Gosh,
to push up through, like, that's just like,
seeking light.
yeah.
Right? And it's
It's energy
beautiful.
source.
Think about the
That's,
metaphor of that.
yeah.
All seeking light at the end of the day. I think just, yeah, we all need to acknowledge that we are part of the system that is we're indoctrinated into, and we were born into it, and that doesn't take the responsibility off of us to create changes, but it does just wake us up to what we have been, what we came into, that we didn't necessarily start. You and I personally didn't necessarily start, but we're continuing to take part in it and continuing to further it. And so, yeah, why does that happen? I think it is disconnection. I think it is unawareness. It's just not consciousness. I would like to believe that if every single person was taken on like a tour of where their trash ends up and could follow it, you know, from the point that they like put it in the garbage to the you know, to dissecting the stomach of the bird that it, or the fish or the whales, or, you know, that their plastic, the exact one that they put in that garbage ended up, maybe there would be a little bit more like, whoa, I don't want this. I love animals. I don't want to, I love dolphins. I don't want to kill these things. You know, I like to believe that we as humans, we are mostly good at our core,
Yeah.
and that it's not like a intentional malevolence, but it's just more ignorance. And it's easy to dissociate when things aren't right in front of our face, because we know that shame and blame and fear and all that, it doesn't move people very well into action. If anything, it paralyzes them. And
Opposite direction. Yeah.
yeah, especially from an environmental standpoint, where the issues feel so big and they feel so like beyond us. The fear and the guilt just kind of creates like a, well, what can I do? What can
Yeah.
I, one tiny little person, do?
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's what makes what you're sharing here so important in the impact that you can have in your own choices and in your communities, in your community, and in this modern world as 2020. And there are modern conveniences. The you know, the gasoline for the mower on 25 acres is a perfect example.
Totally. Yeah, so I live on a 26-acre land out in Wheatland, California, which is about an hour outside of Sacramento. And we live in a pretty rural area. And there's about 9 or 10 of us at any given time that are living and working together. And yeah, the Heartland Collective it's a permaculture-inspired property where we are working to do our best to live in a sustainable and ecologically friendly way. And again, like I said, there's just always more. There's always more to do on that front. And so over time, the owners of this property have, you know, put certain practices into place and just tried to become more and more eco-friendly. And we're still doing that. And I moved here in February I moved here in February, and because I was really seeking this style of life. I was done with living in cities and just kind of concrete jungles and, and apartments. And I really wanted to be in a more expansive place out in nature. And I wanted to live with community as well, other people who were also interested in a more consciously eco-friendly way of life, nature-connected way of life. And yeah, I would say that we do a number of things here. It's hard to pinpoint just one thing that we do. Beyond the permaculture-inspired lifestyle, we have different events here. We have a village building event, which this year, unfortunately, was canceled because of COVID, but we may do it again, and we may reschedule it for the fall. We're still working on trying to figure that out. It's called the Collab Camp Out, and so we do like a village building inspired event with small group, like 250 or so people who come together, and there's all kinds of workshops on different topics in permaculture, in community, and holistic health and wellness, and it's a really fun kind of camp out sort of festival event. And yeah, and this is also a business incubator, a conscious business incubator as well. And it's meant to be a place where people who want to come together to collaborate and build different eco ventures or different things that they're working on, socially conscious entrepreneurship ventures. They can come and collaborate with the things and the resources that we have here, the land, the property, the event venue, or if there's an idea that they have that would intersect well with the things that we have going on here, that this could hopefully be a space for that. So that's kind of the vision for the future. And we're in a build phase right now where we're really focused on building infrastructure and getting things set up and ready. Building, refurbishing. I'm in right now a space that is my room and my bedroom, but this whole building used to be a big barn, and so refurbishing the spaces, making them livable, getting the place really like running on solar, and we're on solar right now, and getting more panels and getting it all situated. We're building massive gardens that hopefully in a year or two can be like generating a lot of the food for both the people that are here and for also people that come for events, farm to table events, that kind of thing. So we're out there building a greenhouse so we can grow in the winter, and we're in build phase right now. And because of that, a lot of the people that are here are more transient, and they're coming as work traders to help support the build, maybe staying here for a month, 2, 3, 4, depending on their situation. And they want to be a part of something like this and experience something like this and help to like put their hand into the creation of it. So that's sort of where we're at right now. And we are, looking for people who want to come and put in some work in exchange for getting to live here and experience the beauty of this land and the sweet community that is here as well. And we do a lot of fun things as a community. Like there's a lot of really cool skilled people here that teach yoga and do lead ecstatic dance. And we have women's circles and men's circles every week. And we make it a point as a group to do our best to expand ourselves and grow ourselves personally. And we read different books like the 4 Agreements, and
you all read that.
Yeah, we read them together, and then we like discuss them and talk about them and try and implement these practices into our lives and into our relationships here. And so there's some really great authors and teachers that we've found their teachings to be really, really profound. Brene Brown's work, we follow her a lot. And yeah, it's a lot, a lot of this is based on like self-exploration, exploring ourselves, connecting with each other, with the land, and living in a way that we really can it can be sustainable, and not just sustainable in an environmental sense, sustainable, like emotionally sustainable, mentally sustainable. Like, I personally don't think it's sustainable to go to like a high pressure office job 6 days a week and sit in front of a computer under fluorescent lights, not moving your body. That's not, from a health and happiness perspective, I don't see that as sustainable. And so a lot of the people that come here are also looking for an alternative way of living to that, or something like that. So it's fun. We're always just exploring, like, how can we exist in like weaving this modern world with maybe some of these more ancient practices that we're weaving into our lives, like cultivating our own food and that kind of thing. But yeah.
What an incredible environment to be in, a very healthy environment in a lot of different ways, physically, spiritually, but also intellectually stimulating with reading books. And what I think is important to point out is, like, we don't have to have that traditional sort of office environment where that's work, because, as you're pointing to here, this is a business incubator. And think about the acceleration of ideas and the teamwork possible that's there in that environment.
Yeah. That's the goal. That's the goal. Everyone to like really feel, that we're working together, that we are working together to co-create, and we're supported, and life supports us, and we have the like chance and the space and the time to be creative and be healthy and breathe fresh air and eat fresh food and move our bodies and laugh and play, and all these things that make, I think, for a full, rich life.